Excited to see what happens in this pick ban. It will determine a lot of what happens in the game. How I feel about it as well. We're going to have to see what Gen G can do on the blue side, as you were mentioning here. Zoe will not be played in these first two games.
So SKT in game number 1, they were on the blue side and banned Silas, Rise, and Callista. Gen G were actually the ones to ban Zoe red side. They're on blue side now, so remember, they have first pick access for something like the Zoe that is going to be common first pick going forward. Jace now, of course, is a very high tier pick, but is it a Gen G pick? Is it something you ban against Gen G is a question that I might not actually fully know the answer, and it seems like the answer is no, because Gen G themselves having to ban Jace on blue, despite it being, I think on 9.4, it will be first pick basically every game it's left open.
Yeah, I think the only other champion that you could say might be above that would be Vlad, but Vlad, you know, able to be flexed a little bit more, also incredibly broken right now. It's hard to really put anything too far above those two for now, as Ezreal this time around was left available alongside Lucian in game number 1, but immediately SKT on red. They have a different banning strategy for blue and red side, and they do not want to see either of those 80 carries make it into this game.
Since being benched, Fly would have had more time to go into solo queue and find some new champions, because his champion pool issues have been a consistent one for quite a long time. Seems like the LeBlanc has not entered there just yet. His solo queue accounts don't have a lot of action, so he is shrouded in secrecy a bit. Aurelion Sol, of course, the most famous pick from him, and his Lissandra's been pretty good. So first pick Lissandra might be kind of where they're forced to go, as Gen G is. You know that game number 1 went a certain way when Rule was getting 3 bans on the red side by SKT.
Yeah, just take away anything that's OP or anything that he can play very well. And there still is Kai'Sa, but those 3 are definitely a step ahead right now in this meta. Galio, though, still pretty high up there. Let's hope it goes into support this time around, but can be flexed.
Support is the more likely one, I think. Now the Fly is in the lineup. He's actually kind of been up and down on the Galio in his history. Crown also struggled on Galio, even though it seemed like it fit his wheelhouse very well. SKT, sadly, everyone's free to go to bed. The Zed seems to be out when it comes to today's games, at least. Sandra, most likely to be the pick for mid lane here is, what do we want to go first round for SKT? I think you could go Rek'Sai here if you wanted to find something safe. The Alistar, what they're choosing to go anyway. One game on Braum. The Braum's still open, you'll notice, but the Braum is going to be ignored, so we're seeing a bit of support priority here. All support's available, and Mata prefers to go into the Alistar.
Yeah, after last game, he's like, oh yeah, I remember Alistar. That's pretty strong. I'm gonna give that a shot, as immediately you see Lissandra and Alistar. This is one of those times where I can't be too mad about the Sylas being picked. 2 ults that are already fantastic to steal, alongside Varus, which is going to be picked over something like a Kai'Sa or anything like that. They want to make sure they can pick Ruler's 80 carry before anything else gets banned.
A lot of slippery 80 carries are banned, which means that when it comes to 2v2 laning insurance, Varus, of course, strong there, but against what was already locked in, you're like, ooh, Lissandra could flank that, Alistar could help uphold that, Kai'Sa could swoop in. So Kai'Sa would have offered more repositioning, and has been a Gen G standby in recent series, but obviously not to the tune of many victories. 4 and 5 most played on the Kai'Sa, so that's a pretty good win rate for a team that has much lower than 50% win rate. They still prefer to look over it. Maybe we'll find out later in the draft the reasoning why there, specifically for Ruler. Second round, though, it seems like SKT aren't convinced it's going to be a support Galio. Tom Kench banned away to ensure that Varus is even more susceptible now to Lissandra and Alistar flanks.
Fiora, not something you may pick very early on in a draft, but how about 5th pick, counter pick to the top side? They want to get rid of that, especially after game number 1. Khan's MVP earning performance on that champion makes that a pretty obvious first ban here.
But Valdez, after game 1 also, I think it's just a blind ban against Khan. It's the fact that they can't deal with the Fiora. They don't have champion pools. Roach and Cuvée have pretty overlapping champion pools. There's been many words about Roach over the years that he could perform on carries in scrims, but his stage performance has never really fit him. on that particular side. Vladimir is left open a really long time in this draft. Could be picked up by SKT if they want to do that.
It does mean you get double AP in the lanes, but with how strong it is, would be interesting to see it here. See a lot of nodding from Klid, so maybe they just go ahead and pick jungle right now. Still in Olaf, a Lee Sin, a Rek'Sai left available, but through all of that, they go for Jarvan.
It is something that will always get to Varus. It's a very good compositional champion against Varus, whether it's top or jungle. Remember, this could be a flex, because it's someone who might not always maximize damage, but you can EQ flash ult someone, right? You can cover an entire screen, and you're not Zac, so you don't have to give up early priority to do so. So flex Jarvan here. I think that's something that Khan has played in the top lane before. Gen.G won't have the full information until the late mail is thrown by 5th pick on the red side. They're going to return to the Olaf. We'll wait and see when it comes to laning priority. We do like Varus 2v2 and basically any AD carry support matchup, so that part is good. The Sylas remains to be seen based on matchup. Will Gen.G finish out this draft as SKT suspect this is not going to be a support Galio, or have they forced it to be a support Galio? It always goes one way or the other.
What?
Karthus!
Somebody get Ellis on the phone. What's going on? Does the Olaf go top and Karthus into the jungle?
That's a very interesting question, given that Olaf top has been played. Noticed it when I was looking over some solo queue accounts with Conqueror. I don't know if SKT knows what to make of this, so drafting for your own comp might be smart.
How about a Riven?
Would they dare? Would it be Riven time? That'd be pretty hype.
Oh,
let's do it, baby!
Okay.
But who will be playing the Riven is a question we will find out. I'm sure Klid saw inspiration from Canyon. Would love to be playing it. There's a lot of shenanigans going on in this draft. Second Karthus in Korean Pro play at the highest level since Kesper Cup. Now, waiting to see. Faker is the most famous Riven. Remember, he is an undefeated Riven player, but I don't think he's going to be playing
I want
Riven.
him to play it so bad, but doesn't seem like the day. And this was the other formation I was thinking about. Karthus, just go back to old Karthus, send him mid, and have the Sylas run top alongside Olaf in the jungle. 20 seconds is gone, and that's going to be the way it goes. So exhaust Karthus in the mid lane, comes back, and Khan, yeah, you can ban his Fiora, but can you ban his Riven? Seems like the answer is no.
And Riven is a good matchup into Sylas as well. This is a very strong laning matchup for the Riven. This is going to be really exciting to see. The only time Khan played Riven in the past was with Ignite against a Gangplank and got a pentakill in that game as well.
Yep.
That was when everything was going right for Longzhu into King Zone. Now, it is 2019. He's already made us a believer as Fiora. That one we already know. He's definitely looking to cash in against a different Gen.G top player this time on the Riven.
Well, you take a look at this, and yeah, you can rub your eyes, but it is real. Karthus in mid lane comes back here with the return of Fly into the mid lane, replacing Roach. He's like, yeah, let me show you how to play the mid lane. Let me hop on a Karthus and show you who the real boss is with this R button.
Not sure if LS will be as big a fan of this Karthus as he's not in the jungle, so letting down our boy LS, but Riven top lane from Khan is to me where my eyes will be trained. Let's see if Roach can find some breathing room in the top lane.
This is going to be a good one, guys. Let's jump into game 2 now. The fans happy about the picks this time around. Game 1. Khan brought you Fiora. Game 2, he takes it even further with Conqueror Riven in the top lane. We'll see what else he's got alongside his runes. I would assume that the observers will be on top of showing you exactly what Riven can bring to the table on 9.4.
Very exciting to see. Fly going for, as you mentioned, the old Exhaust Karthus, the standard summoner spell we saw from Froggen 7 years ago. Still true today. Many, many years later, trying to farm it out against Lissandra. Notice no cleanse, so a lot of threat, you could say, from Lissandra and Jarvan post 6 especially. SKT have a comp that is actually pretty fundamentally the same as what they had in game number 1. They have a strong 1 champion in the 4-1. That is going to, of course, be the Riven with Conqueror. Gen.G looking for a late invade here on the bot side.
Mona's like, yeah, you guys can do whatever you want. I'm just running by. Don't mind me.
These are, of course, this season. Khan has played Riven before in professional play, in Korea no less. Because of late invade, it means that Gen G have to take damage in the 2v2 to get access to the minion wave, so a bit of a health bar lead there. As Roach, if you're wondering, didn't want to push the lane, and that's why he used his E backwards.
I see that a lot, especially in the mid lane, where those lane positionings can make all the difference between if you die or not. Will be interested to see, of course, not only that matchup in the top lane, but also what the Karthus can do in the mid lane up against the Lissandra. We've seen a lot of higher range champions than Lissandra do well into the lane. You know, you think of Zoe, even the Cassiopeia, but Karthus is another interesting one where you should never really be in range of the Lissandra's combo or any kind of shenanigans like that. Maybe even pull off a little bit of poking yourself.
That's why it's hyped that Karthus was locked in, but in effect, he's going to try to push the lane and not have it frozen where you see it on the screen. If your minion line is out of turret aggro against a Lissandra, you're going to be in Glacial Path Flash W range, and that's where Karthus is susceptible. Otherwise, he wants to be as non-interactive as possible. Think of like Orianna, for example, just trying to farm it out.
Yep.
And we're going to have to watch the jungle path thing of cleared, and it's going to be something that Peanut needs to focus on. You really want a battle ward here to allow Karthus to wantonly push. Otherwise, more often than not, the lane is going to be frozen in an awkward spot, as we see right now.
Flight's doing his thing, farming up. I don't know the exact calculation, but 23 seems awful close to perfect so far.
Hype to see Riven in Korea. We've had so many Riven pentakills in Korea. Smeb has a Riven pentakill, Someday has a Riven pentakill, and Khan, many years later, has a Riven pentakill. I would love to see another Riven pentakill.
Is today the day?
No.
Well, I mean, it could be. You don't know that.
Are you sure? LS talks about the future all the time. There's not going to be a Riven pentakill today. Sorry. I'm bursting your bubble.
Now you're like LS trying to call the dragons that come out.
No, I wouldn't. That is his
You're also
thing,
a guy
man.
that doesn't like to make predictions as well. Unless it's big bad, but sometimes you do.
I think predictions are it's always interesting because there's a lot of good ideas. I feel like if you want to give a full answer with an essay, I'm happy to do it, but just X beats Y I don't find interesting because the draft is so important and teams forget their win conditions half the time, so it becomes tricky to find too much intelligible when doing those predictions. Top side, Roach so far been able to be pretty competitive in this lane. See where first buys go. You assume Roach's going to go into Iceborne Gauntlet, pretty tanky. And Karthus should definitely be able to provide the late game damage. It's just my worry is Ruler, specifically because of the champion he's chosen, which was purely for lane, which after game number 1 you can understand. However, a lot of members of SKT are very mobile and able to shut him down.
That is true. Peanut going for a second go-around, and the enemy jungle has the timer on that one. You'll notice that on the opposite side, double ward by Clid over by that blue buff. So similar in terms of where the control is for both junglers.
Right now, though, things are being played at a pretty slow pace. Clid doing a lot of invading, wants to track the enemy jungler. I believe they would know that he's onto the Drake here. No response so far, but remember, Faker has teleport.
And now Faker, where will he go in for the teleport? Looks like Peanut has a good idea that they know he's there, so he will have to back away. And the TP just comes into the mid side, so no big fight's going to break out over an Ocean Drake today.
They actually showed their hands pretty transparent because there was no attempt at a flag and drag by Jarvan, so therefore it was pretty clear they were coming for a collapse around the Drake, so smart of Peanut to pull away. Very high value Ocean Drake this game for Gen G. Literally everyone would have used that in the laning phase and allow them to be more comfortable. Ruler and Life can use their spells to push, which of course Galio will have the huge advantage over Alistar in terms of the support battle here. It's the unique thing about Galio support being rolled into the meta right now. Clid continues to do a lot of invading, doing his own battle ward in this game, and now threatening something creative around top. But backs away and just happy to pick up the scuttle.
Creative Scuttle comes in for him. Will just be farming it up alongside the Olaf, just a little bit slower. Looks about 1.5 camps behind right now, but he is currently out on the map, so should be relatively even in that matchup. Gen G, for now, it's going to be fine to sit back and let the Karthus just try to farm up and do his thing, I would have to imagine.
Now, if we compare this to game number 1, which we've already done in terms of drafts, so yep, Riven in the side lane, 4 members of SKT. It's not with the same lane leads they had in game number 1, but importantly, SKT aren't finding leads early, not finding leads before one item. There's no advantages meaningful on either side. 7 minutes into the game, so this game probably hits the next level when we see Faker finish his first item, and Teddy feeling combat ready. Ultimate available on Mata, probably the requirement there. So smartly around pressure. We talked about the Varus bot lane, what it provides. It provides lane pressure, therefore, steal a blue buff. Nice invade by Gen G, and their fundamentals haven't abandoned themselves completely for the start of game number 2.
It was definitely a team effort to get on in there as well. Oh, axe thrown mid after Faker goes back with no TP to push in the lane. Get Karthus in with you to help out with the invade. And the aftershock here for Roach definitely helps out in these trades against the Riven. But once it's down, you see that he wants to keep his distance and just poke down some of those minions and CS without going for big trades.
Interesting to see the build from Khan. Riven is very able to abuse the newest item in the league. Old Essence Flare removed now on the Spear of Shojin. You see already the Caulfield's Warhammer. It's often Caulfield's into situation. It doesn't have to be a Yomu's Rush or anything like that, but you got a lot of options on Riven. A lot of items are pretty tantalizing on her, so you can understand a lot of approaches to the lane. Just to me, the untradeability kind of begins when that item's complete, is right now Roach able to get a nice trade in.
Good trade, sees Faker on a ward now though, and it's going to walk back with his tail between his legs for now, as junglers find each other. Clid not happy to take that trade anytime soon. Faker still on a ward.
Khan has been trying to bait this. The earlier trade into Roach doesn't know that a blue ward from Gen G is getting them so much value here and wasting the time on the Lissandra. Peanut trying to take the Drake. Given all of this, they know they outnumber, so despite there being a control ward in the pit, they know there's no way for Lissandra Riven to respond to this play.
Good map play. Just playing around where they know the enemies are. And although we are going to have an ultimate straight onto Peanut, and immediately backed off on, as they will at least force a flash out of Peanut, so a little thing there. But that Ocean Drake that you mentioned is pretty high value, especially with the laning phase. It's going pretty slow. Is good here for Gen G.
But it's just good to see Gen G making a 2, 3, 4 play, if you know what I mean, where they have information they're trying to turn into something. Clid is not fancying going into fly, given that his ult is down. But what I mean is, it was a multi-step play to get the Drake down there, and yet it was bloodless and at the right time. So they read the map pressure very well. The blue ward topside was the huge MVP there, as it got them that huge information lead when Khan was trying to bait. Now they end up with an Ocean Drake that we already mentioned earlier, is one they exploit very well in the laning phase.
No bigger Drakes just yet, just the Cloud one coming up next. We'll have to wait and see if SKT can get pressure on the top side of the map. We talked about their Rift Heralds before the series even started today. They were something like 17 for 25, and then they picked up another one in game number 1. So we'll see if that pressure on that objective continues here into the second game.
Item build from Khan. He was at Caulfield's Warhammer Ruby Crystal, and now he's bought a second Ruby Crystal. So perhaps a sign that Black Cleaver will be coming out in the build, as Phage into Kindle Gem is seeming like the build path is going on for at least the start of this build. Seeing Gen G, red buff, very, very quiet stuff, and if you find yourself napping and wake up to a 400 CS Karthus, then who's to say Gen G are completely done in this game? The Dark Harvest stacks, those seem like a bridge too far for now, but early laning phase has been fine, and when you make a side lane play, you always have to calculate that extra 250 plus damage the Requiem will be doing.
You can already see as well that they're doing that old style, you know, Season 2, where you just give Raptors and the, well, I guess they were Wraiths back then, and the Wolves over to the mid laner, who's just playing a wave clear champion and is just trying to CS as much as possible. Already, the Wolves given over to the Karthus. Wouldn't be surprised to see some Raptors go that way as well.
Very low health build coming out from Fly. It's looking like Ludens as a first item. Could still be a tier, I guess, coming in late, but playmaking, as you have the CDR and the Magic Pen already complete. Seeing Khan actually lane swap here. This is interesting, trying to have some potential of an all-in. And when you see no health in the build from Karthus, even through the exhaust, we could see him dying pretty fast.
And of course, Faker with Aftershock Lissandra can pretty much lane against anything, so easy swap for him. And a bunch of armor in the build, as you were pointing out, Papa, there for the Sylas, means that Lissandra actually begins to hurt a bit against Sylas.
Exactly. It's a Riven against armor stacking, which in the early game she wants her items to start getting around 40% CDR and all-ins, and now Magic was just on the top side.
Okay, tons of damage goes the way of Faker. Has to ult himself to get away. He's going in with the Flash Roach, just trying to get down Faker. Will he go down? Yes, he will. First blood to the Requiem apply from the mid lane.
Seems like Faker was caught napping there because the Lissandra ult being stolen means there was a huge damage lead at the start, and the Requiem that we mentioned getting done in the side lane, so the swap is turned instantly on Faker and Khan.
Just press R makes a lot of sense up against a Lissandra that no longer has her ult and makes it look easy. The damage calculations right down to the minuscule numbers there, no doubt. Probably to the single digits in that calculation, as makes it look easy. Fly just sitting back and picks up some more magic penetration into that sweet build.
And it was so interesting there because SKT looked at what Gen G didn't have. Armor stacking. Let's just swap on you. Lissandra can top lane. Meanwhile, Gen G looked at what they had. They're like, wait, we've got a Sorcerer's Boots complete playmaking Karthus in the mid lane. Let's go for this all-in with the damage we have. And Faker being hit by the Lissandra was the beginning of the end. The flash for just one half of the chains was enough, and Karthus ends it. So I feel like Gen G turned lemons into lemonade in that play, which again, after game one and with Gen G's struggles, is not something we could assume. So big credit, Gen G.
Really got to hand it to them. Make it happen. Good play by Roach as well. Sklid just hopping around in the jungle. See if they can make a play happen to the side of SKT, as Sklid and Faker looking for the blue buff handoff. And here comes Khan, 3-on-2. Sylas not there just yet, but it doesn't look like they'll be able to lock him down. But they do steal the blue buff away. A lot of mobility in the comp of SKT means they can run away from this one scotch-free.
A lot more honest of a steal there, needing a lot of people to invade. Game one was almost over at the 14-minute mark. Definitely didn't see that in game number two, so fans of a competitive series should be enjoying the mulligan into game two action. So far, Fly bringing back an oldie, and it is showing. I appreciate that he spent 2 weeks away from the Rift and now comes back with a new pick. It may be a golden oldie, and he is one of our longer stature players, debuted all the way back in 2014, but he's bringing out a pick he has not played since he came back to Korea at the start of 2017. And say what you will about the build, it definitely does one thing. It play makes well on any sort of invade and any pressure around Peanut or solo kill.
Yeah, I must have taken some time off, you know, do a little bit of coaching with our boy LS and learn a little bit of the intricacies of Karthus and how many buttons exactly you have to press on this champion. But all things aside, I mean, it was just a good team play, and he makes it happen in the top side, so really got to hand it to Gen G. They start off on the right foot, but once again, SKT trying to boost their Rift Herald rate. They're just going to take it away with no vision on the side of Gen G. They've got most of it around the Drake, which allows them to get Cloud Drake, but they give away Shelly again.
Definitely feels like a trade-up when it comes to objectives, but it's a flow-on from all the vision they placed for the blue buff steal earlier, remember, Valdez, so kind of has to be an acceptable loss for the side of Gen G. Again, I want to talk more about the build from Fly, because think back to Karthus builds, they were, Kassadin style, as much mana stacking as possible. Very low mana in this build, very blue buff reliant. It's going to be a Leandri's build, so Karthus' single target damage on Drakes and Barons may not be Cassio, but does a pretty good imitation. Going to be mana gated in this game, and if they keep the blue buff off him, it's going to suffer, but right now, you've got double Magic Pen, you don't got a lot of health.
Ooh. W misses there on Faker. Doesn't bother to ult, even though he had two members around him, two teammates that could have potentially gotten on Fly. Fly, of course, with both summoners available, but not having to use either of them in the trade.
Teddy was the first we saw on the LCK going this build, so he already has the transformation on the Q for trimming waves in moments like this. I think this is definitely the right build against Galio Varus. They're the hard-pushing duo. Get Q as early as possible so that every time Varus pushes in, he doesn't get those extra 3 autos in a turret. Speaking of autos in a turret.
It looked like multiple alongside Shelly's big auto charge coming on in. So first blood turret does go the way of the Jungling top laner up in the top side, but that does mean that SKT do have to give up pressure on the bottom side, and we will have that trade of the turrets that's been around for quite a long time. Shelly gets another charge in the top side for some extra damage.
We back away and just have to reevaluate the game state, because it feels like we're going to actually bore out the 5v5s in this game. Already mentioned SKT, more of a 4-1 comp, but definitely the right flank from Ribbon can be pretty damn massive in a game like this. The build paths on the champions here, it is going to be AP from Roche. You know, he has Zhonya's, a Lost Chapter item on the way, so it's going to be an attempt to find picks with this build. Can definitely find with synergy with Lissandra and Jarvan burst damage ultimates, or do his best Chovy impression and be super unkillable with the Alistar, and that seems to be a favorite for most of the players of this Sylas recently, has been the compositional answer of stealing away that Alistar ult.
Yeah, I mean, as I was saying in the draft, right, it makes sense to pick up Sylas when you're facing Lissandra Alistar. It's just 2 ults alone that are going to be fantastic, and you have a chance of SKT picking in some other ultimates that are potentially good to steal, so like the idea, as once again, Gen.G getting frisky in the enemy blue buff area.
Definitely feeling like they can force things, and their items and champs tend to agree. Roller's looking very strong with an escort from an Olaf and the Galio. Vision bugging there, but very hard for SKT to mount a defense that is not an actual full-on all-in attempt with champions like Lissandra, Alistar, and Jarvan in the river like that. So Gen.G square up to mid, stop pushing with Ruler, while Teddy's Q will delay things over time. The turret threat will be pretty big from the side of Gen.G.
They'll get there eventually. We've had 3 games earlier today that have gone pretty swiftly, you know, from early game into one team having a lead into a bunch of action. This might be our first game that actually just calms down a little bit. You know, the Drakes weren't super effective with the Ocean and the Cloud, and other than that, just the 1 kill so far, so suppose we were just waiting for this moment.
I don't think people will want to hear this, but my read on how this game will go, just given the first 19 minutes or so, as Teddy actually sidesteps away from Varus. He had his cleanse, so he would have lived through it, but it looks like it's going to be about someone getting caught in transition. Karthus, for example, wants to push and then find safety in the side lane when he's farming. He could definitely be caught. Speaking of being caught, it's a next level situation, but Faker will get out. Karthus is the most immobile of the champions side laning right now, so he's at the most at risk of being caught, and if you exhaust your vision, if you don't have your control wards in place, there's a real chance that Fly is caught napping playing side lane, and that's his first time in pro play Karthus in a long time. Therefore, a lot about pushing out waves safely, and that's usually one team or the other will trip up.
Well, we do have Khan getting close to Roach, a hope of action, but none coming just yet, as Gen.G eager to gain some vision around the Drake and get double Cloud Drake would make things even more enticing for that Olaf and Sylas and everybody to get into the back line when these fights do start.
It's kind of inevitability that will continue this game, though, leaving Khan on an island and trying to make things happen while he cuts his mid lane.
Okay, Clid alone there for a moment, has to ult flash to just get away, which means another engage ability wasted there essentially, as well as a summoner.
And every ult that's removed when it comes to engage means that Ruler's life is safer. Remember that a lot of SKT's comp was invested in finding ways to just squash the Varus like a rat, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. In particular case, won't be swatted down. Swatted like a fly, not a rat. That's a bit weird, but at the end of the day,
some pretty big flies he got there.
Even Flash being down means no Flash Cataclysm in the future, right? So Ruler is looking like he will be leading more and more of a charmed life. We back away as Karthus gets another minion wave, and this game extends with Gen.G having the only meaningful leads of 1 kill and 3 drakes.
We're just going to have to sit back and wait for that one, as you were mentioning. Just farming it up for now. Nobody really making a big move. The next Drake is going to be a 3rd Cloud Drake in this one. And as long as nobody makes any big mistakes, we'll have to wait and see. Although the Jarvan ultimate stolen, and well, it's Riven, so she doesn't seem to care.
Her items also, for the heads up, is way better than what Roach is able to wield. It's full Maw and Black Cleaver against, you know, straddling the line between teamfight and respectful for Roach. The game will reach a point where SKT can engage onto Ruler and shut him down from doing damage safer than the same could be said about Gen G, and we like Riven the side lane. So you feel like SKT has a lot of good scaling options, although counterpoint is still Karthus. You'll notice the build, the way you approach a game like this way, that, well, we kind of have to engage on the Varus. We're definitely going to take AoE from Karthus, as you stack magic resist and kill Ruler, because it's magic damage else on the side of Gen G. Even Galio doing some relevant magic damage. So I like the itemization here. You don't often see more second on a Riven, but given where this game is going, it's probably the right call.
Just need to see a little bit more, perhaps, for Faker, but he's, you know, eventually going to pick up Lasagnas. He is also Lissandra, so can pretty easily avoid all of that and probably get some health back. And Kai'Sa's got a shield, needs to build damage items as well, so can't fault the item build so far from those two players in terms of magic resist.
But our impression, based on the draft from SKT, was this is the go point, right? Now Kai'Sa's like, yep, I got my items, I'm ready to farm. I'm ready to farm kills and just fight in general. There's no kills in this game at all from SKT. Now Riven is looking pretty unmatchable in a side lane. So I feel like SKT, who've been so respectful, right? They've been pulling back from engages that they were easily taking game number one. Now is kind of the start of the game period, the next 20 minutes or so, where they, if they have the ward lead, should be able to make things happen. And I think Gen G will be kind of ripped at the seams more clearly than SKT will, based on the current item rate.
It's definitely a big game for Ruler to step up and say, hey guys, we've got a chance, and now I have to be the guy that avoids that big engage from the side of SKT and outputs enough damage to get everybody low enough to be requiemed in the game.
Actually, so confident to walk up here. They have control ward. Olaf was battle warding as well, so showing his face, making sure no one was coming in. So the ultra squishy Karthus, who only has the health from the Merlinomicon, able to get 3 autos onto a turret. Every time Karthus autos, you wonder what happened. Here we go, though.
Exhaust comes in. Faker just going to try to ult on a fly, but has to flash away, as you mentioned. Olaf's back. Kind of battle warding there. Khan going to find Sylas. Not looking for a turret dive today, though.
Khan doesn't have Executioner's Call, which actually makes it... needs to be an all-in trade rather than the extended trades in the side lane to actually make Roach honest on this Sylas. But now at least you can notice doing a very good job of delaying.
Good try there on that one. You know, you just throw out your ultimate when not much is happening as the Varus onto Kai'Sa. Even though Teddy has Cleanse, maybe you can blow Cleanse and then try to engage in a follow-up fight when you have your ultimate back.
Second time it's gone wide, but we'll see where the game is the third time around. It's always a bit of a mind game, you know, the first Blitzcrank hook, the first of those line skill shots that can be game winners later, and often influence the way people juke as the game goes on. So information open. Won't use this time to just laugh at Ruler for missing twice. He won a world championship, catching Faker with a Varus ultimate, so, you know, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt for now.
I'd assume he's pretty confident in that ability and in his ability, although it is hard with the rest of his team struggling around him. You notice that he picks up a Guardian Angel third alongside Ninja Tappy. He's not messing around. He knows he's the big target in this game.
This is one of those games where you definitely feel your true elo, as everyone is easily 10 CS a minute or more. 300 plus CS already recorded at 25 minutes. The new norm is that you kill every minion, damn it. The genocide only gets worse for the minions.
No excuses, right?
None at all. Gen G, they're patrolling. Remember, they have 3 Drakes, so Elder's looking like a pretty big win condition, and will they just get another Bloodless Drake? It'd be number 4.
Yep, that it would. Okay, TP comes in here from Khan, and Mata going in there alone for now, but Ruler taking a ton of damage already. GA is already popped, and Teddy has so much room to do damage. Fly just has to Zhonya's, and he's not doing damage during that time. Requiem will come out, but it's not gonna matter, as it doesn't do enough damage, and stopwatches are there. SKT wipe the floor with Genji.
And it's almost a perfect ace. Only the engager goes down, and it was like we mentioned, Valdez, stack that magic resist, bide your time, and even Karthus' scaling won't be enough. Well, watch the replay here. It looks like a fight might not even happen. I don't know about this teleport. It seems disconnected, but Mata, bless his heart, has to go super early to make this happen, because otherwise it'd just be too easy for Genji to disengage. Ruler is the one who needs to be free hitting. Don't get to see that in this fight. There's enough lockdown CC to make it happen. They control space, but there's a firing squad circling the members of the Cataclysm, which were Genji. They skip around the stasis available for Teddy, who hasn't got his magic resist yet, and there are the claps. Sakoma seems happy. So do the rest of the members of the coaching staff of SKT.
He said nicer. And nicer.
Could you translate that one, Valdez?
And nicer again.
Could you give us an honest English translation of that?
Nice.
And what was the second one?
Nice.
And what about the last?
And nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks for the translation, Valdez.
No problem. I'm
What? G-Sun confirmed that was correct.
G-Sun says maybe he said let's go as well.
I didn't hear that.
I didn't catch that, but it's possible it happens.
What does she know anyway?
It's not like it's her job or anything. As you have to wonder, how did Genji get into that spot in the first place? I mean, it's a Cloud Drake. It's the third one. They all pile into the pit. And then Mata's able to get a big engage. You got Riven and Kaisa able to plop behind you. You talk about that circling fire squad. They kind of got themselves into that position to begin with.
They did, but Mata had to really cause some ruckus for a long time to set it up. So I think it was just catching them unawares that SKT would go for quite a bold all-in, right? There was a lot of summoners available, so you wouldn't have expected it to come off, but I think they just overrated their game state after it had been 1-0 in kill score and the big farm toes. Like, yeah, we can fight here. But SKT had been intelligent, stack magic resist, and stop Ruler from just hoovering damage onto 3 people with Hurricane. And things get good, and now the side lane that was kind of even is less even for sure around Faker. Should be way less even if Khan ever feels frisky. And they're taking down standing objective. There should be a big Baron buff power play gold-wise.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the numbers. You're going to have to watch them update again and again. We're close to 4,000 gold for SKT.
3.8 and counting here with a minute and 30 left. Khan looking to pick up another turret in the bottom side as the game honestly blown wide open after that one. You can't just give away 5 kills in a Baron and not expect to be way behind, as is the way of things here. So SKT really trying to put on the full court press on the outside inner turrets first. They get a couple, 3 in total, I think, actually. The 2 inner turrets on top and bot, and the mid tier 1 towers will start falling.
Full damage Karthus is now behind in tempo, i.e. map control is gone from the full damage Karthus, who has no mana pool to speak of outside of the Ludens. And then the Varus, who we mentioned, could poke and siege very well, but get caught in team fights. May have Summoner up, but also is only receiving minion waves when SKT starts to decide to push them in. Feels like Genji have a comp that from behind can't force very much. Olaf's not going to be running in alone. We saw in game number 1. Olaf from behind. Karthus wants people to come to him. Sylas could try to steal an ult, but otherwise not going to do so much. It feels like in one play, Genji have lost control of anything other than minions being pushed into their inhibitor turrets in top and bot and inner turret in mid. The map has just gone from 50-50 to 90-10, and that is a really big concern. Is this the last inner turret left for Genji, and they're not even going to defend it?
Yep. You got to be respectful. You got to fight on your last battleground, which should be around those inhibitor turrets or maybe even your Nexus turrets once it gets there. As Faker threatening and engaged, but nothing will happen here just yet.
Ball over the wall. There is the warning now. Again, TSM Jat special.
No sneaky claws coming out of the darkness. Not anymore.
When did they add the craggy ice around the axe throw? It's really cool.
Must have been recent, right?
I learned something
Last
actually
couple of
about
matches.
Broloff. We've often ruminated on Broloff. It's the thing that goes back to the Monty Doa days.
Yeah.
Only one voice line was removed from the Broloff skin, interestingly. Some of them are in Korean. He still says chug chug. But actually, because of just the sensitivities in Korea, the your mom when he dies is the only line that's removed from Broloff, I should say.
Yeah.
Speaking of Broloff.
Well, he's trying to do damage to Jarvan, but Jarvan can hop over the wall here, and Teddy says, get away from me, or my friends, as they tried. Karthus was there too, but Jarvan just has enough mobility to get out of dodge. And poor Genji, 1 Ocean, 3 Clouds, and what's the 5th Drake? An Infernal, right when SKT is ahead.
That is, yes, I think a fair comment. I don't have much to add to that. Definitely feels like a low roll on the 3 Drakes they got. Or was it SKT seeing the Drakes and giving them? That is the part that's harder to isolate. I'm not going to be fully in the SKT goggles camp in this one because Genji made a lot of good aggressive moves. Their proactivity and play around pressure was good. They earned Drakes. But you also have to talk about them because they're up there. The double Cloud and Ocean haven't helped as much as they would have liked. The first Ocean was really strong for their lanes. The Clouds for Olaf are pretty decent, but definitely the double Infernal Mountain is conspicuous by its absence to Genji fans on the left side of the screen. Now SKT, very strong 3-item builds, and now the Requiem comes in and there's 2 Guardian Angels, or I say Guardian Angel and Azonias, a Gargoyle Stoneplate, a Mao Mortius, and a Stopwatch. So the next Requiem shouldn't be killing anyone, and Ruler has to find a way to engineer damage. You may have 4 items, but there's so much threat from SKT that keeping up damage uptime as a Varus should never happen in a 5v5 at 30 minutes.
It's going to be rough to find that damage in these fights here, as they are down about 8,000 golds. It's about 6,000. NA math, by the way. But we'll see if they can actually wait until that extreme late game when, you know, it's not just going to be the Zhonya's, it's also going to be Death Cap. Final item for Karthus, you would have to imagine.
SKT need a Baron to close with this comp. Kai'Sa can't siege. Riven is very strong in the side lane, but a Baron pushes her over the edge with turret threat, so the Baron is the most important objective, and we're getting a deep teleport from Riven to start this off.
Wow, and look at Mata as well from the right side.
He hasn't been seen on Vision yet, and Mata's here too!
He finds Novaris, and see you later, TA. That's immediately going to go down, and they have Novaris for so long in this fight. The towers fall, the Requiem comes through, but again, it does not matter how much damage that ability does, because the rest of his team is dead.
That was awesome from SKT, just like around the Drake. They surround Genji, the firing squad lets off its final barrage, and SKT win 2-0.
There you have it, couple of really clean games here from the side of SKT. As Clid, well, that was good timing. As all the Zhonya's will come out now, didn't even need them for the team fight as GG comes in for game number 2. Very clean couple of games here from SKT, playing to their team comps and outplaying Genji 100%.
And all the SKT fans out there nervous at a 0-1 kill score game around 22 minutes against Genji are now breathing a big sigh of relief. They waited for their moment when their items kicked in and they had answers to the Requiem if things went a little bit sideways. And 2 fights is all it took. And 2 fights, 1 jab with the right, 1 jab with the left. The knockout was out there. TKO to Genji in game number 2. They may not be the 1-punch man, but a 2-punch man's pretty good too. And 2 punches later, SK Telecom confident winners of game number 2.
Feels fantastic, especially after they went down to Damwon the last time they hit the Rift, 1-2 in a close series. They come back, they gain more confidence, and honestly, it wasn't even just that Genji is like a lower table team here in the LCK. SKT just looked like an extremely good, clean team at the top levels here of LCK.
But let's also talk about the other team here. Genji had a really good start to game 2. They had a plan, they had a new pick in the mid lane that looked very good. They played very proactively around invades. This is a Genji performance you can VOD review and learn something from in a way that game 1 was not. So Fly coming in actually was something positive in this series, so maybe they can persist with this Fly and Roach configuration in their solo lanes. SK Telecom T1 needed a comeback victory. They're against Gen G down the bottom of the table. They may have basically, not yet, but close to mathematically ruined the chances of Gen G from making top 5. The Faker love is real. The SKT fans should be happy. A clean 2-0 against their opposition should be the minimum, and today it was the minimum for SKT.
Well done all around, and the love is real here for the side of Faker and the team. Everybody looking really confident and satisfied with the way they dispatched of Gen G tonight. Be interesting to see who picks up the MVP from game number 2. Mata had a couple of really fantastic engages for sure. Wouldn't mind to see him in the interview.
Have we ever seen better Riven teleport flanks? Not a champion usually known for that, but I think Mata, his heroic invade that was always going to lead to his death, was the furthest away from in vain. His chasing and eagerness to start that fight around the Drake was the first punch, the first jab, and it was awesome to see. We're going to see the replays here. This is the final flank. This is such a bad feel as Ruler. You've got the Guardian Angel, but remember, you need to find a build that hoovers out AoE damage. There hadn't been a single auto yet from Ruler when his Guardian Angel was popped.
He respawns eventually, flashes away from the fight after a triple kill.
He never autoed. He ulted and died to the Riven ult.
He was like halfway through the animation and just dies immediately. Doesn't get better than that, right?
You know, really when you say a composition works one way and really shuts down one person and then can't even get one auto off. Sometimes a plan gets together, and that plan was SKT, so good to see. That Dumb One Gaming loss was a black mark on their name when it comes to second round robin. They can't avenge that one. They have to end 1-1 against Dumb One Gaming. Over the course of summer season, they've only also lost to, I believe, Sandbox and Griffin so far. Because before they had only lost to Sandbox and Griffin, and now the Dumb One lost. So they can avenge one of those losses. SKT hopes of at least making the grand final look pretty high.
That's a good moment to begin this off, especially with that mid-Karthus coming into play to flash forward for the extra damage and then Requiem for the kill. And you're like, oh, I can see this. This is nice.
And your Gen G, nice. That was forethought. That was playing around a lane swap initiated by SKT. But then it's answered here. Mata, flash pulls, headbutts, not to anyone, right? There was no alley-oop there. That was purely, I need to create disarray and buy time for the rest of my team to get into position. So that is definitely the noblest of cows. That one deserves a eulogy. We loved you, Mata. Great job there on that particular engage. We'll see if he gets the MVP for that particular fight. And then so many answers to the Requiem. They shut down and just 2 fights. And that was SKT in the past, right? They would bide their time, and then when the game was there to be won, it was done swiftly. This was the aplomb to end it. Good win, SK Telecom T1.
Riven, you remember, we haven't seen her so much. We see once again that Varus doesn't even auto-attack once, but as a follow-up engage, it's actually really fantastic. Right behind Alistar, you get the knock-up, and then you get the knock-up of the third Q of the Riven, and then the stun. And by that time, if you find the right target, the guy is going to die. It doesn't matter who it is.
And I want fans to look at this gold graph. You see, Gen G was ahead for so much of the game, but this is what we call controllable. There is no increase in the gold lead for about 8 to 10 minutes around the mid-game because SKT knew they had Gen G where they wanted them at certain item breakpoints. So around that time, yes, Gen G was getting 11 gold when SKT was getting 10, but it was about SKT getting certain items, so they knew that at, say, a 35,000, 35,500 gold game, they'd have their items and be ready to fight.
It was a pretty fun one. I mean, there was that little bit of a lull state halfway through, but that was just the way the game went. And Mata's first MVP comes out here on the Alistar. Funny that it takes all the way past the midpoint of LCK Spring 2019, but with plays like this, you can't argue with it.
Undeniable MVP of game number 2. Tucson and Mata both picking up MVPs on the same day. We have not had many support MVPs so far in LCK Spring 2019. Happy to see the voters agreed with us. Great performance from him. First MVP on SK Telecom T1. It won't be the last.
It won't, but I'm really interested to hear him in the interview as he will be coming out for the first time here in 2019. Can't wait to hear. I'm going to hand it over to
경기력으로
Ji-sun for the
SKT가 다시
translation.
승리 가져갔습니다.
Thank you very much,
MVP
guys.
칸 선수
SK
마타 선수
Telecom picked
만나볼게요.
up 2-0
안녕하세요.
victory, and we're gonna be joined by Khan and Mara for this MVP interview.
네, 칸 선수 지난 인터뷰 이후로 꽤
칸,
오랜만이에요. 오늘
It has
승리
been a
소감
while
어떠신가요?
to seeing you on stage. How do you feel about today's victory? I'm really happy that we got the 2-0 victory. Well, last time we had a 2-1 defeat against Taiwan, so we had a lot of worries and we were preparing so hard. So it's a big relief that we got the win.
또 마타
got the win.
선수는 첫 MVP예요.
Mara, it's your first MVP.
팬들께서 엄청난
A
환호를
lot of
보내주시기도
fans were
했는데요. 자, 팬분들께 인사
sending a lot of
부탁드립니다.
shout out for you when the MVP showed up. So, any message for them? Hi, this is SK Telecom support Mara.
네, 오늘 승리 정말 기분 좋으실 것 같아요. 기분
So, how do you
어떠신가요?
feel about today's victory?
일단 오늘 2대0으로 깔끔하게 이긴 것도
It was a clean 2-0 victory, so I'm
처음으로
happy.
MVP 받아서
And also, it's my first MVP, so
네,
I'm really
기분 정말 좋아
satisfied.
보이시고요. 자, 1세트 얘기해 볼게요. 칸 선수가
So,
피오라
speaking
들고
of game
나왔는데
one,
지난번 MVP도
you played Fiora,
였단 말이에요.
And you picked up MVP previously on Fiora as well.
생각하시나요?
그거는 일단
Is that the champion that connects you with you really well?
제게 그런 프레임을 씌운 것 같은데
No,
되게
that's like a
억울하고
framing.
탱고도 잘할 수 있다고
You know, I'm good at
네,
tank
칸
champions
선수는
as well,
탱커도
so
좋아하신다고
no, I
말했습니다.
would like to say no.
렉사이가 굉장히 1세트 초반에 잘 풀어주면서
Rek'Sai was
탑
doing a
라인이
lot of
편하게
actions
보였어요.
in game
라인전
1
실제
and
상황이
you were
어땠나요?
quite winning the
라인전
top
자체는
lane.
원래 좀 되게 잘 풀리고 있었고
Yeah, I was
렉사이가
having a
좀
bit of a
적극적으로
laning
활기를
priority
쳐주면서
and
위치를 다
also
보여주니까 게임하는 데 있어서 되게
Clade was
편했던
doing
것
really well,
네,
having
클리드
visions in
선수가
the
칸 선수의
opponent's
호흡이
jungle, so
빛났습니다.
it was really easy for me
멋지게
to play.
올라프 잡아내는 장면이 있었죠. 저희 화면
So
보면서
let's
얘기
check out this
나눠볼게요.
clip over here.
이때 감으로 올라가신 건가요?
이때 처음에는
So what was going on over there? Well, I was expecting him to recall over there,
늑대가 있다고 떠가지고 늑대를 먹나
and it,
확인하러 갔는데
on my map
있다고
said there can be a wolf over there, so I just wanted to check if Peanut was taking out that camp, and Peanut was there recalling, so I was able to just solo kill him. Game 2, you played Riven. Last year, I heard you had pentakill on it, so how was playing Riven today?
뭘 해야 될지 좀 모르는 상황이었는데 거기서
We
이제
were
팀원들도
really
코치님들도 다
unsure
자신 있는 거
about what
하라고
to play in the
하셔서
top lane,
최근에
so
좀
the coaching staff
프로
told me
랭크에서
to
했을 때
just
좀
go
잘
with the
돼가지고
champion that I'm
얘기를
confident
하게
with, and I've been
네,
playing
알겠습니다.
Riven a lot
자,
in
마타
solo
선수는
queue, so
1세트에
yeah,
상대
that's why I played
바텀
Riven.
라인과 그렇게 라인전 상성이 아주 완벽하게 좋지는 않은 상황이었어요. 어떻게
Mara,
라인전 풀려고
How did you
생각하셨나요?
play in the laning phase
좀
for game 1 and
초반에
2?
바루스 갈리오가 라인전에선
So
센데
Varus and Galio,
갈수록
they're
안
really
좋은
strong
팀이어가지고
in the early phase of
저희가
the
천천히
game.
하면 이길 수 있다.
So I just wanted to just not to rush too hard and just slow down and wait till the time that we are stronger.
보면서 얘기 나눠보겠습니다.
And we have this highlight over here.
저의 생각으로는 좀 일찍 들어가지 않았나 생각을 했는데
I mean,
이게
for me, I thought it was a bit of a early engage, but were you just trying to focus on the Varus or something?
시작해도 이길 수 있다고 생각했어요.
I thought it would be better to open team fight early.
그리고 마지막 게임을 끝내는 에이스까지 SKT의 오늘 연계가 정말 엄청났습니다.
SK
보통 이럴
Telecom
때
had a
오더는
lot of
들어가나요?
awesome wombo combos.
다 같이 하는
Who
편이긴
makes
한데
the call the most?
이제 오늘 같은 경우는 제가
We all do,
알리스타
but
뛰다
today,
보니까
because I was playing
주도적으로
Alista,
많이
I
했던
just want to be
네,
proactive.
마타
So
선수의
maybe
주도로
today it was
SKT가
me.
멋진 경기력 뽐내줬습니다. 마타 선수 다음 경기가
Mara,
킹전이에요.
your
데프트
next
선수와
opponent
만나게
will
될
be
텐데
Kingdom, and
오늘
you're going to
데프트
be facing
선수가
up against
인터뷰에서
Deft.
뭐 SKT한테 복수하겠다, 꼭
And Deft also
잡겠다라고
said he's
얘기를
going to make sure to
해주셨어요.
get
마타
his
선수는
revenge
어떤 얘기하고
on SK
싶으신가요?
Telecom. Is there any message for Deft?
이번에는 저랑 테디 선수가 좀 더
Well, this
잘해서
time, I think
알파카 사냥을 한 번 더 해보고 싶어요.
Deft, me and Teddy, we are going to
야,
perform well, and we're going to hunt the alpaca.
멋진 소감 남겨주셨습니다. 칸 선수는
And Khan,
어떻게
what
생각하세요?
about you?
뭐를요?
아, 네.
About
데프트
what?
선수와의 맞대결 그리고 킹전과의 대결이요.
About the Kingdom matchup.
전 친정 팀이기도 하고.
Well, that is my
이제
former
거기
team.
탑라이너인 라스칼
And
선수랑 굉장히 친하기
Rascal,
때문에
he's my old friend.
뭐 만나면은 어떻게
Yeah.
요리해 줄지 잘 고민해
I'm
보도록
thinking how to cook them.
야, 마타 선수는 알파카를 잡고
So
칸
Mara is
선수는
going to hunt down the
요리를
alpaca, and Khan is
준비하신다고
about to
합니다.
cook Kingdom.
자, 오늘 인터뷰도 정말 즐거웠습니다. 칸 선수, 마타 선수
It
감사합니다.
was a very entertaining interview with Khan and Mara, and I'm going to pass it back to our casters.
승자
Thank
인터뷰
you.
여기까지 마치고요. 중계선 연결할게요.
Well, there you have it, guys. Nice little interview. Finally get Mata up there on stage as well. And as is usually the case when I cast, it's always 2-0, 2-0. Same thing once again, but maybe tomorrow we'll have some longer games.
And how about a bit of a different wrinkle? Because sometimes a plan comes together. We just had convincing Kingzone victory, convincing SKT victory. End of that point. Kingzone versus SKT couldn't be more hype for our final game of the week. So I love it when a weak narrative comes in. I don't mean a bad one, but where in a week we actually going to learn something, because now I really want to know if SKT and Kingzone run into each other, what comps are we running? Who is actually going to be favored here? SKT come in one match clear of Kingzone, but Kingzone on a big streak so far. So we already said that with Griffin kind of locked into top in most people's minds and Jin Air at the bottom, to me the evolving question is just who is the best of SKT, Damwon, and Kingzone, and by how much? That tier list could actually be the most intriguing question left in LCK Spring 2019.
There's a lot of questions to be answered here, like who is going to make it into playoffs and who's going to be relegated, of course, as we get closer to the end of this one. But Afrika versus Damwon is a big one for Afrika. They need to come back, as well as Damwon want to continue having a big lead in the playoff spot, whereas, well, Sandbox get their Jin Air game. We'll see if Jin Air, maybe go back to some of those new picks they brought in. Tana and C's looked a little bit better, so maybe they can look a little bit better against Sandbox. But Sandbox, definitely the big favorites there.
Well, it's the end of this holiday Friday here. You and I are done for the week, so hats off to Atlas and LS. They'll take you through all that fun action. Sunday especially. It's going to be an awesome match day.
Definitely do not miss those guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. But, quick day today. Really enjoyed it, especially the first series into the second series. Lots of action, lots of fun moments, cool picks, stuff like that. Thank you once again for joining us, guys. We love you.